What does it take to be a hero? Is it strength? Unshakable courage? A flawless resume? What if I told you one of the Bible's greatest heroes was a man who started out as a coward, hiding in a winepress, paralyzed by fear? His name was Gideon, and his story, found in the book of Judges, is one of the most relatable and thrilling in the entire Bible. It's a story about doubt, fragile faith, and how God uses the most unlikely people to do the impossible. Today, we're diving into the story of Gideon, the man who went from who me to defeating a vast army with just 300 men. Let's get into it. To understand Gideon, we need the context. The nation of Israel was in a vicious cycle. They'd turn from God, get oppressed by a foreign power, cry out for help, and God would send a deliverer, a judge. This time, the oppressors were the Midianites. They were like a locust plague, sweeping in and stealing all the food and livestock, leaving Israel in poverty and terror. And where do we find our hero? Not on the battlefield, not even in an open field. He's threshing wheat in a winepress, a pit normally used for making wine, to hide his meager harvest from the Midianites. He is scared, and he is hiding. And then an angel of the Lord appears and says something that must have sounded utterly ridiculous. "The Lord is with you, mighty warrior." Gideon, with a sarcastic tone, asked, "Excuse me? If God is with us, why is all this happening? Where are all the miracles our ancestors talked about? It feels like he's abandoned us." Right out of the gate, Gideon questions God. He doesn't have blind faith. He has honest doubts. And God's response isn't anger. It's a simple, powerful command. "Go in the strength you have and save Israel. I am sending you." Gideon's first act is one of timid obedience. God tells him to tear down his father's altar to the false god Baal. He does it, but at night because he's afraid of his own family and neighbors. This is not a confident superhero. This is a man taking baby steps of faith. But then comes the famous part, the fleece. Gideon says to God, "Look, I need to be sure. If you're really going to use me, let the fleece be wet with dew tomorrow and the ground around it be dry." And God does it. But Gideon, in his insecurity, asks for the reverse. "Don't be angry with me, but just one more test. Let the fleece be dry and the ground be wet." And God, in his incredible patience, does it again. Many see this as a lack of faith, and maybe it was, but I see it as a picture of God's grace meeting us in our uncertainty. God wasn't offended by Gideon's questions. He was building his faith, one step at a time. Finally, Gideon is ready. He gathers an army of 32,000 men. But God says something shocking. "You have too many men. I don't want Israel to boast that they saved themselves." So God tells anyone who is afraid to go home. 22,000 men leave. Now Gideon has 10,000. Still too many. God has Gideon take them to the water for a test. The vast majority kneel down to drink. But 300 men stay alert, bringing water to their mouths with their hands, keeping watch. God says, "With the 300 that lapped, I will save you." Imagine Gideon's fear now. 300 versus a numberless army, as thick as locusts. That night, God tells him, "If you are afraid to attack, go down to the camp with your servant and listen." So Gideon does. The Midianite soldier said, "I had a dream. A loaf of barley bread came tumbling into the Midianite camp. It hit the tent so hard that the tent overturned and collapsed." This was the final confirmation. His faith is now solid. He returns to his 300 men and unveils the most bizarre battle plan in history. He divides the 300 into 3 companies. He gives each man a trumpet, a torch hidden inside a clay jar, and that's it. No swords, no spears, just noise and light. In the middle of the night, they surround the camp. On Gideon's signal, they smash the jars, blaze the torches, blow the trumpets, and shout. In the confusion, the vast Midianite army turns on itself in the darkness and flees. God gave the victory using nothing but broken jars, fire, and the faith of 300 unlikely men. Gideon's story, however, doesn't end with a perfectly happy ever after. The people try to make him king, and he rightly refuses, saying, "The Lord will rule over you." But then he makes a fatal mistake. He takes the gold from the plunder and makes a sacred garment, an ephod. But over time, the people start worshiping the ephod instead of God. It becomes a snare to Gideon and his family. It's a sobering end. The man who tore down one idol ended up creating another. It shows that the battle of faith isn't just one big victory. It's a lifelong journey. So, what can we learn from Gideon's complicated story? 1. God calls the unqualified. He doesn't call the equipped. He equips the called. Your feelings of inadequacy are not a deal breaker for God. 2. Honest doubt is welcome. God is not afraid of your questions. He invites you to seek him, even from a place of uncertainty. 3. Victory comes through obedience. God's methods often don't make sense from a human perspective, True victory comes when we trust and obey his unconventional plans. 4. The battle is the Lord's. The story of the 300 isn't about their strength, it's about God's power. When the odds are impossible, that's where God does his best work. Gideon was a flawed, fearful, and unlikely hero, and that's the whole point. His story gives hope to all of us who have ever felt too weak, too doubtful, or too ordinary to be used for something great. If you feel like you're hiding in a winepress today, remember Gideon. Your story isn't over yet. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this deep dive, hit that like button and subscribe for more Bible stories explained. Let me know in the comments what part of Gideon's story resonates most with you. Bye.